In this document, we are going to talk about the process by which we follow the progress of a project through the production phase, from rough draft manuscript to the completed process, the book that's ready to be published. To start off with, we have a numerical system by which we can look at any document and know who has seen this document, who has handled this document, and it works like this. The author in this numerical process is always the whole number. That is this position right there. They are version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4. That's how they do it. So we will go chapter 1, version 1, chapter 2, version 1, chapter 3 to version 1, like that. The content editor is the person who helps with, is your story coach, and they will help you with continuity and the things that make a good storytelling. They are in the second position, and they're the first ones that take your manuscript in hand. They are in the second position, so whenever they see something of yours, they will use this spot right here. Your line editor is the person who deals with your grammar issues, and they also kind of back up the content editor. They're their second set of eyes. The content editor and the line editor often work together as a team, kind of covering each other's back. So the content editor or the line editor occupies the second position after the decimal. The proofreader, the person who brings it to polishes it up really nice, make sure that all the punctuation is right, you don't have any misplaced homonyms or malapropisms or anything like that. They occupy the third decimal place. Final approval is a person who is the gatekeeper. You're not ready to go to print until it's gone through final approval. They occupy the spot after the second decimal. No matter who is, because we swap positions. Some people might be a content editor one time and a line editor a different time, or even a proofreader. All the editors are familiar with this process, and it doesn't matter who they are. It matters what job they're fulfilling, the role they're fulfilling in any particular project, where they will put their version control number. And we do version control like this. This is our project tracking sheet. It is found in every project management workbook. Has a project tracking sheet. If you're in an anthology, there is a project tracking sheet for every author. This is a completed project, one that has gone through the entire process and was published in 2013. Because it looks confusing, I've fixed it so we can go through this one step at a time. Start out with, we start from the author's draft or initial draft that comes to us is version 1. In this case is version 2, because the author, after he submitted, he did some things, and so the content editor started working on version 2. She took it and she made her corrections, her comments, and sent it back to the author. And he made the notation here, she made the notation that she sent it to the author. Then the author went back and he sent it back to the editor. He started at version 3. So when the content editor sent it back to the author, she sent it back as version 2.1. The author then saved that version as version 3, made his corrections, made his comments, did his track changes, and then sent it back to the author, or to the editor. Again, the process went through again. The editor looked at it, and at this point, the editor says, okay, that's great, let's send it on. So she then sent it to the line editor, and she sent it to the line editor as version 3.1. So then she made a notation that she sent it to the line editor. So we all know that at this point the line editor has that document. Then the line editor went through and she did her corrections and her, as far as the grammar goes, and when she sent it back, well, that was the wrong thing to do. When she sent it back, great. She sent it back as version 3.1, and you see here, this is the line editor's initials. She sent it to the author, and she sent it as version 3.11. That means it went from the author through content, and then it went through content, and then through line here. Author, content, line. And then here it went back to the author again. So the author goes back, and he saves it as version 4. Okay, now here he's going to send it back to the line editor because the content editor says she's finished with it. She doesn't need to see it anymore. So the line editor, it goes to the line editor. Now, so he sent it to the line editor, then the line editor goes through, decides if she likes it or not. She says, this is great, he's made all the corrections, it's fixed, and she's going to send it on to final approval. So it went from the author to the line editor. From the line editor, she didn't make any changes at all here, so she just left it as version 4. That meant she's seen it, but it's untouched. Okay, and she sent it to final approval. And again, this is going to be the same. So final approval goes through it, and she has another look, and she might say, there's maybe a few things that I think would be better if you addressed. There might be one or two issues. So she'll send it back to the line editor here. And she sends it back as 4.0.1 because the author has seen it, the line editor has seen it, but not made any changes, and then the final approval has seen it. But you'll notice here that when it goes back, it doesn't go back to the author right there, and so the version root does not change. The only person who changes the version root is the author. The author always changes the version root. So she sends it back to the line editor. The line editor takes a look at it, and she'll make a comment or whatever. And this is if a final approval and any one of the editors need to talk about something, they do it in the document usually. You can make comments, you can flag things. In another video we have that shows you how to do that. This is how you make sure that you know what you're talking about. Instead of writing an email, you can do it this way. So she's going to send it back. Okay, that means this time, as the line editor, she's made a notation. She's changed the document, so she's going to take her spot, and she's going to send it back to final approval. Now final approval says, okay, she probably said, that's something I think you should talk to Jason about, and so final approval took it again, and see, she saved another version. Every time it goes through one of these things, and the editor will save a new version and the author will save a new version, but they will always use the proper code. So this time the final approval is sending it back to the author here. The author makes a new version. Author always makes a new root. He looks at it, he sends it back. It ends up, technically this should have gone over here, this should be over here. There. That's what happens when you do your own final approval. Okay, then she sent it on whatever the issue was, it was resolved, and so she sent it on to the proofreader, and that spot is here. Now in this particular project, the proofreader, we actually got a new proofreader. So in the process of us waiting for the proofreader, we went back and we sent it to our new proofreader here. And then she went through, we actually sent it to two different people. We sent it back for proof, and we sent it back to our proofreader, and we sent it back to the author again. Now this is the last time, this is the very last time the author gets to make any changes. So when it goes through proof, after it comes out of proof, then it goes into our final production file, and it goes to our graphics people, and they make it into the document, the documents that go to our printer. And so it's all one big file, and so changing things is no longer in a word processing document. Changing things once it gets to that point is very difficult. So authors, if they want to make changes, they have to do it in this step. The proofreading is the final step of getting to make any changes, so make sure that you do it properly. Then both the author and the proofreader sent these back on the very next day. They each saved their own version. Now you'll notice here that the proofreader saved her version. She only changed her spot, her third decimal over, but the author changed his root. Again, the author always changes the root, and it goes to final. Now when it goes to final, when the person who is your content editor is the person who creates the final production file, which is all the chapters all put together, they mark that they've received it, they put the date down, and what they do is they combine the two files, and then they go through and they combine the two files with tracking changes on, and then they go through and justify everything. And when that's finished, then they take a word count, and then after it goes through this whole process and the word count, then you go through all the chapters, then you come down here, and we know how big your book is going to be. So that is how tracking changes works. I know it's confusing to look at like this, so please take the time to go through and watch it a few times, try and listen past my babble. Your content editor, a few more things about it, this is another place for dialogue between editors and the authors. You can leave a comment here, so they can say, you know, this is why this is a little bit different. In this case, we joggled the chapters around because we thought the sequencing would work better as in a different sequence, and so our author went through and made the changes, and so and then you get here. Let's see, let's go down here, where basically the content editor is saying, just make this one thing, I don't want to see it back, just send it and push it through. So that you can do this on the tracking changes, and it's very effective. Everybody has this exact same document in Google Drive, so everybody can see it all at once. You might actually see that others are looking at the document at the tracking changes at the same time you are. Again, please watch this video until it starts to click, and your content editor is your very best friend. Ask them questions. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. If they don't know the answer, they will find out the answer. And welcome to the X, and we're so glad that you're with us, and happy writing.